Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Steve Baxter and I'm coming to you today from CVP's studios in Studley in Warwickshire. They very kindly allowed me to use them yet again. Now previously on this channel, I haven't posted many videos if you've seen it, but previously on this channel I very excitedly did an unboxing and initial impressions for my brand new Canyon AEROAD 8 CF SLX disc bike. This is a bike I've bought myself, not sponsored at all, and any opinions that I'm expressing are totally those of my own. I did say in that video that what I'd like to do is to report periodically upon the progress that I'm making with this bike, and that's what I'm here today to do, really, is to give an update on how's it going so far. What are the strengths of the bike? What weaknesses, if any, have I identified and communicate those with you, and to just give an overall opinion, a personal opinion, on whether I think this bike is worth the money and is a good piece of kit. So first things first though, since the last video I have been inundated with a question, so thank you for that, and the question was regarding the sizing of this bike. I'm about 176, 177 centimetres in height. Not sure what that is in imperial, but that's my height. And prior to buying this bike, I'd gone onto the Canyon's website and used their size finding guide several times. And on each occasion, it kept coming back saying small frame, 51 centimetre frame. Now, I was a bit nervous about this because my trusty Boardman here, a bike which I love, my Boardman Pro Carbon SLR bike, is a 53 centimetre frame. And when I checked the geometries with a tape measure, I realised that this medium Canyon was very similar to my medium Boardman. And after a lot of deliberation, I thought, well, rather than going for a 51 centimetre frame, which might feel a little bit small, which is great if you're a pro rider and you want to have your stack on your saddle about this high, rather than going for the small frame, to go with medium, which would closely mirror the size of the Boardman frame. And as you can see, both of these bikes are pretty much the same size. So did I make the right decision? Well, yes, I did. 53 centimetres for me at 176, 177 centimetres in height is absolutely perfect. Absolutely feels the right size of bike. So there you go, there's my answer to that question. So let's move on to the bike itself. What's it like to ride? What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? First things first, I've done about 150 miles on this bike. I was hoping to do more. I must admit, I wimped out at the weekend. It was raining a bit, and rather than go out and get it wet, I chickened out and went and did a 70 miler on the Boardman. That said, I've done about 150 miles so far on this Canyon and ridden it in a variety of environments, uphill, downhill, some routes and segments that I'm pretty familiar with. So I think I've got a good first grounding on which to report back on. So first things first, is it any good? Yes, it's brilliant. You know, let's face it, it is a great bike all day long. Is it absolutely the best bike in the world? Well, I don't know. This is my own opinion and I can only go from the experience that I've got. Is it better than the Boardman Pro C SLR? Yes, it is. It's not night and day though. It actually, to be fair, the Boardman, which was the Cycling Plus 2014 Bike of the Year, is an amazing bike, and yes, I think the Canyon pips it, but it's marginal, and here are the areas in which I think it does pip it. So the first thing is the geometry of this bike. I expected it to feel uncomfortable, not as comfortable as the Boardman, which is more of an all-round race bike, and it doesn't. It feels like it's tailor-made for me. It feels comfortable, responsive, very similar geometry, in fact, to the Boardman. So that's a great thing. Straight away, out of the box, first ride, felt good. The next thing is, how does it actually convey, translate your power? Well, the Boardman's very good. It's a stiff bike, a really well-respected carbon frame. The Canyon pips it at the post again. This frame is super stiff. It manages to be super stiff and yet comfortable. But that stiffness means that every pedal stroke that you make, every bit of power you're putting through feels like it's being translated into forward motion. It just feels quick. It accelerates quickly uphill, it accelerates quickly on the flat, out of corners. It feels like a bike that's working on your behalf to translate all of your effort into forward motion. I think that's great. Next thing, okay, what is it like to climb? Well, I wasn't expecting it to be great uphill. After all, it's an aero race bike, not a specialist climbing bike, not a weight weenie specialist climbing bike. This bike, however, climbs really, really well. I was surprised to see on my first ride that I was beating some PRs that are long-standing PRs of mine uphill as well as on the flat. Why was I doing that? Well, I put it down to two things. The first thing is this super stiff frame. It translates your power into forward motion. It makes it easier for your work to be translated into speed, whether that's uphill or on the flat. The next thing is this has got an 11 to 28 rear cassette. The Boardman's running an 11 to 25, and those few extra teeth on that rear cog certainly make a difference in terms of maintaining your cadence and therefore your speed when climbing. Also, you're knackered when you get to the top because you haven't absolutely slogged yourself to death to do so. So it's quick on the climbs, and that was a bit of a surprise. On the flats, it's very quick, and I think that's twofold. One is I've slammed this stem, so obviously even though I didn't go for the small frame and have the saddle way up in the clouds, what I did do is I slammed the stem. I think I mentioned that in the first video, and therefore my position is pretty good when I'm trying to push on. Combine that with the fact that you push hard on the pedals, pull hard on the pedals, and you can feel it pushing you forward and willing you forward. So it's a pretty quick bike from that perspective too. The next thing is, I've mentioned the geometry, I'm happy with that, but it's its sure-footedness that really impresses. Now I pushed that Boardman, I've got some pretty quick times downhill on segments in Strava, but straight out of the box, I felt I was able to push this Canyon more downhill round corners. There's absolutely no front-end chatter. It just feels planted. It feels like it's willing you on to push it a bit more. And I haven't even got close to exploring its limits yet. What I can say, however, is what I have done so far feels quick, and it just feels so enjoyable and planted and egging you on to do more. It's a real racer's bike, a real bike that involves you in it. The next thing is these brakes. Disc brakes are controversial, we all know that. Is the Pro Tour going to adopt them? Is it not? We don't know yet. Are they dangerous? Can you slice cucumbers with them? Can you slice shoes with them? Well, leaving all of that aside, my initial impressions on these disc brakes are they are superb. They inspire confidence. From the get-go, you can brake later, more consistently and harder without locking up either front or back. They just make the bike feel so much more stable, so much more competent when it comes to slowing it down. Sure, everyone tells you that there are penalties associated with disc brakes. And in fact, if you look at Canyon's own figures, they say there's a penalty of 0.8 of a watt with the disc brake version versus the rim brake version. So there's a penalty there from an aero perspective. And also, this bike is about 600 grams heavier than the rim brake version. I would counter that with two things. Again, this isn't scientific, it's just my opinion. The first thing is that whilst they might be heavier, the weight is lower down on the bike, so it's around the front and rear axle. So it's actually lowering the centre of gravity. So I think, and it's a theory, but I think it adds to the stability of this bike when it comes to cornering. So that's a good thing. And then the next thing is that with traditional rim brakes, especially with carbon wheels, what you are doing, whether you like it or not, is you're wearing out your carbon rims in braking. Carbon isn't the most efficient thing in terms of dissipating heat, so you get brake fade, as we've all seen. Whereas with disc brakes, there's none of that. They perform better in all conditions, there's less brake fade, and you're not actually knackering your wheels to slow the bike down. These are replaceable components. You can buy new discs, new pads. to me, it seems like a perfect idea moving forward. So I think once we get that safety element out of the way and perhaps some lighter versions and more aerodynamic versions have been developed, it'll be good to see these in the Pro Tour, etc. I think the other thing that contributes to this bike's stability is it's got through axles. The through axle just make it a more solid front and rear end. It makes it able to deal with the road conditions, deal with you putting the power down that much better, and therefore creates a more stable, more responsive, more enjoyable ride. There is a penalty with the through axle, which is that you can't just quick release them in and out. They do take longer to change the wheels. However, unless you're on an event, a race or a sportive or something, it's not really a massive penalty for most people. So there you have it. Clearly this is a bike I'm still excited about. I've only done 150 miles on it so far, but I love it to bits so far. It feels good, it's quick, it's stable, it's grippy, it looks good, it makes you feel great when you ride it. And yeah, I am pretty much cock-a-hoop about it. So, are there any weaknesses to it? Well, there's one that I've found so far. Whether it's a weakness or not, I'm not 100% sure. It's just something that was a little bit unsettling, and that's to do with these wheels. These beautiful 62mm Reynolds Strike carbon wheels. They are gorgeous, I love them, and I think that extra 12mm of depth that I get from these when compared to those Bax Carbon 50mm wheels, they just make them look so much more badass. It's great. However, one thing I did notice, I was coming down a hill doing about 50 k's, 30 miles an hour the other day, and went past the road junction, and there was a really strong crosswind that came. Now, it felt like I got blown across the road. I don't think I did. However, in that fleeting instant when the crosswind hit me, it felt like I got blown a fair whack. And I've ridden that road quite a few times on the Boardman and never felt that. So I do think they're a bit more susceptible to crosswinds than the shallower carbon wheels. But I guess that's not news to anyone, is it? Because we all know that the deeper the section of carbon wheels, the more susceptible they are to crosswinds. I think it's a tiny price to pay. And personally, I think as long as you've got your hands on the controls, i.e. the grips, and you're being sensible, it's not going to perturb you too much. So, yes, I've only done 150 miles. Yes, I'd like to have done a lot more. But this bike seriously is amazing. I love it. It is only marginal gains. However, these are the marginal gains that I think are important. So, should you go out and buy this bike? Well, I'm probably not that well placed to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do. However, I would certainly buy this bike again all day long. So I would recommend, if you're seriously considering getting this bike, do it. It's a great bike, you will not regret it. Fantastic bike, makes you feel good. So, thank you once again for watching and listening. What I will be doing is doing some further updates over the coming weeks and months again. I'm still at the very early stages of this journey with this beautiful bike. I'd like to give a bit of a review of the Boardman as well. I've done over 8,000 miles on that, and I've got lots to say about that and what a great bike that is. And also, I'm happy to talk about any other biking related things as well. So do send through any questions you've got. Also, please slam a like if you think that this video is okay. If you think it's crappy and rubbish, then give me a thumbs down, that's fine. And please do subscribe, because what I would like to do is share more content with you in the future. So from CVP Studio in Studley, I'm Steve Baxter. Thank you for watching, and keep safe out there because it is all a bit mad. Thank you. Bye.